Department head comments. Jim, you want to go first?
Sure. I just have a couple of things. Let me get to them here so I can recall what the heck they were. We're still looking at taking out those little trees on the corner of the courthouse. They've been there as long as I can remember. They have red berries on them, and those red berries, of course, they're on right now. And every time we have a storm, once they get to a certain point, those berries will fall off and they will plug the drain and we'll start getting flooding on the east side. So the custodian will like to take those down and either replace them with something else or leave it open. So if you guys would look at that so we can make that call. I want to ask Main Street too if they have an opinion on that. I mean, they look nice, but the birds carry those seeds up all over the courthouse steps and where they land, and it's just got red crap they have to deal with all the time. Literally red crap that they have to deal with all the time to get it off. So look at those and see what you think about taking them out. We are
the northeast corner.
On all corners.
All
corners, one on each corner. And then that big evergreen, tall evergreen that's dying is right against the northwest corner. If you look from the north side, the west corner has a big tall evergreen, but it's dying. It needs to come out. It's right up against the building anyway. That's definitely, we've already got that approved to come out. But look at those cherry things to see what you think. You know, anything we do to the courthouse lawn is so controversial anyway. I want to have all the eyes looking at it as we can before we do it, and we can pull that. The lawn still looks like crap as far as grass. We paid $10,000 to this lawn company to come. When they came and they aerated it all, they sprayed it all. It was supposed to kill all that stuff, and they reseeded it. But if you walk and look, you'll see patches of some kind of, I don't know if it's a broadleaf thing, but it's pretty wide leaf, but it's real spindly, wiry kind of stuff. And so Don called that company again the other day, yesterday I think, and the guy said, well, you just have demons in that yard. It's not a good answer for me, so they need to come do something with it. $10,000 we spent to have a nice lawn. South side's fine, but that northwest and north side, right where the tent is, and that little spindly stuff won't last 2 days once Covered Bridge Festival starts. It's going to be down to bare dirt here as soon as that goes. So I might look at that too. I want to talk to Nick and see what we need to do about maybe sending a letter to him to say, you know, we spent $10,000. What did we get for it?
What was that company's name, Jim?
I don't remember, but Don knows, but I don't remember. And they sprayed just yesterday, I think, or the day before, to try to kill that stuff. And you don't see anything. Nothing has changed on the spray. That didn't even knock down the white clover. That should have been down after the first about 6 hours. That should have been falling over, but it wasn't. So I don't know what they're doing, but it's not a good thing. So we're going to pursue that. The only other thing I need from you guys, if it's what you want to do, I only say need because we don't have the money in Don's budget to do that, and that's out of his budget anyway. You remember when they were doing the courthouse renovation? Some shards came off the facing of the limestone. We have about a dozen hunks of that limestone that came off, and the company that did all the work was willing to come back and put it up, but that was going to be a major project. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars to make those Dutch repairs and put them back in place. Well, Kenny Ziegler from Ziegler Masonry says he can do that. He'll put in stainless steel pins and put them in, and then cover them with a coating that will look like the rest of the courthouse. And he can put all of them back for $8,000. So I just need you guys to decide if you want to spend $8,000 to put those shards back up. Remember, we had to take them off because they were loose. We were worried about them falling off on people because there was no protection from those at all. They were a pretty good size hunk of limestone. So just think about that. And
Are they strictly decorative, or are they? What do they?
They are just hunks of.
They're just hunks of the
limestone block up there. Yeah.
That have broken.
There's a word for that. Spalled off. I think spalling is what it's called. Yeah. They just spalled off. They had a crack in them someplace and froze it. Just popped them off.
But he thinks he can get them back up there and be able to hold them.
Yeah, he's going to put steel pins in them, and he's confident that they'll be just like, nobody will see them and be just like it was before.
Kenny's good.
For that, Kenny is good. And he wouldn't say he could do it if he couldn't do it. He would say, I can put them back up there, but it's not going to look right. He's saying, you won't see it. It's going to look right. So
He would tell you.
he would tell you. Yeah, I have every confidence in him. So
He's good.
that's your $8,000. That's up to you guys, but
How soon do you need an answer?
really, we'll just do it whenever. I suppose summertime would be the best time to do it. So
Well, let's think about it a month.
That'll work.
With this whole virus thing,
Yes,
the whole money
I agree.
situation
I
is
agree.
kind of in limbo. We'll think about it. I mean, it sounds like he comes well recommended. So I mean that.
Then the last thing I have is just purely the Covered Bridge Festival itself. Of course, we get pressure from the news media, they wanna know why we haven't canceled the Covered Bridge Festival yet, and because Feast of the Harvest Moon just canceled theirs. But we have outside venues going on all the time. We have Brick Street, around the state, there are some venues, festivals. They are allowed to exist and perform by the state. So the commissioner's consensus right now is we're gonna pull the trigger on, we're gonna make that decision August 3rd. But when the governor pushed the opening back 2 weeks, we felt we need to push that back 2 weeks too, so we have a full month to see if there is a spike after the open back up. So on the second Monday, whenever our meeting is, the 17th, 18th, whatever that date is, we're gonna make that decision. But I've already talked with all the emergency people. I've talked with the CARES group that are involved with the medical stuff and the health stuff and the emergency stuff. But I want your opinions too. I've only had one person who think that we shouldn't have that, and they were from Plainfield, just because they thought it was, disease waiting to happen. But I called her back and talked to her, and she was fine. But well, they had a big family. A lot of them come. They probably will come if we haven't. So, well, that's, to me, is your option. I mean, unless, to me, and to the other commissioners, so just so you guys know, because I want your input before we pull the trigger on it. Unless the state or CDC come out and say there's some reason you shouldn't have it, then I think we just go on with the way it is, unless they tell us that we shouldn't be doing that. And if they come out and say, no, you shouldn't because of these reasons, then I think we don't. But I don't think we have the skill set and the capacity to say it's a good thing or a wise thing. I think we have to go with the science, and if the state is released to have festivals, then I think we have a festival. And if people don't feel comfortable about coming, then they don't come. We have a timeshare in August in Virginia Beach, and we just talked to them yesterday. Gail and I probably aren't going to go. We've been there for a long time. But we're both in their 70s, and so it's probably a silly thing to go try to squeeze in a week on the beach and be amongst absolutely crowded hotel elevators and the lobbies waiting to get on the elevator. The beach would be fine, but once you get in those buildings, the restaurants are going to be crowded. So it's probably a silly thing. So I think adults need to make that choice. But I don't feel it's up to us unless there's some scientific, legitimate reason to not hold it, to tell all those people and all those organizations that really depend on this festival to get through their year, to tell them they can't do this because we're concerned about it. So I think we have to have some legitimate reason rather than just someone's gut feeling that it's not a good idea. I think we need to have someone's science say, no, it's not a good idea. But if we don't get that, other than that, I think we just go on the way it is.
Anyone who doesn't wish to participate doesn't have
That's
to.
exactly right.
And if they choose to wish to participate, then
They can,
I
on their
believe
own.
they should be allowed to do so.
Yeah, that's what we feel too. So we'll wait till after the next Friday when the governor either goes into phase 5 or not goes into phase 5. And then we'll see if we get any spike from that or any response to that. But restaurants now are full. 36 is full now. I mean, they're at 75% capacity, but there's a lot of people every day. People are worried about people from the outside coming into the county and bringing. Well, you're exposed to that every day. If you go to the grocery store or you go any place, because people have come making deliveries, they brought stuff in. So there is no hiding from it. It's just where do you think your risk level is. And so that's where we are. I just want you to know the second meeting in August is when we're going to make that decision. As for now, it's a go, because we have no reason not to. But that doesn't mean it won't change between now and then. I would like any input. If you got opinions on that, let me know. We'll have them come, we'll check with the medical around here, see what they say, and I've already talked to two, and I know their opinion is just like ours. Well, it's out there, but if you think you're going to be exposed by going and participating, don't. Because it's all outside stuff. Under the tent even is outside. I mean, it's open. You can easily say 6 feet away from somebody, and if you can't and you're uncomfortable, then don't go to the tent. Yeah.
Jim, will the food vendors have to do what restaurants have to do?
Well, they don't really have any capacity they have to worry about. Liddy said yesterday in our meeting that she would require them to have hand sanitizer available. They have to wipe, of course, disinfect the countertops and all those things all the time. But I suppose it would be a good idea to have the plexiglass between you and the people that are taking the orders, just like the restaurants do and stuff. But since you don't have an enclosed space, you don't have to worry about capacity because you've got the whole yard out there that's taking space.
Well, one reason that the Rockville Rocks Athletic Alumni Group meet tomorrow for the 18th thing, and
that'd be the only requirement. Would just be they try to keep the spacing and
Mrs. Dooley. Well, they're I give them a lot of credit. They're really trying to do it right.
And that's all you can do.
They've got extra golf carts if somebody wants to ride. They've got all the things on it at the registration place.
Yeah.
Joe Collins has given them two big tents.
Oh, you're talking about the golf outing?
Yeah.
I was thinking about, Bridge Fest, you're talking about golf outing. No, I don't
Well, but
think,
the food, for lunch, Christy Dooley does it,
is it a sit-down thing?
yes.
I would
And
think,
she worked with the county, one of our county agencies
yeah, that'd be good.
regarding what
What to do?
how to serve
Yeah.
the people tomorrow in their lunch. And so it dawned on me, thinking of crullers,
Yeah.
if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Give you an example, Doc, I was just at the Beef House yesterday, and they had a buffet line like they always do. People go through that buffet line just like they always did. So, as long as it's,
Buffet open now?
uh-huh,
Wasn't last week.
wasn't it? Oh, it was, I was just there yesterday. Yeah. So,
Well, I agree with you regarding the festival.
well, if it's okay with you for me to make an assumption on your part, if you don't mind, let's leave it that. I'm assuming you guys are okay with going with it unless I hear from someone specifically. And if you have an opinion, it won't go any farther.
I would just
than me.
say, just like what you said, base what your decision based on whatever the state and federal rules are, and base your decision on science, not on
That's all I'm gonna do.
what somebody thinks or something.
Yeah.
Because if you base it on science, that's the way to go.
Like Roy said.
And Gail and I are both for on this because I know as soon as I put approved to have it, somebody's gonna say, well, I just wanna have that money for selling that candy, like we get that $1 million.
Now, you need that money from selling candy.
So we have two different voices on that. Gail's the one, Gail says, well, if you vote to have it, then we have to set up. We can't not set up and sell. If you've made it okay to participate, we need to. And I said, yeah, but the other side of that is there are going to be people who say, well, you're just voting to have it because you want to set up and make all that money. So in that case, I should say, okay, we're going to have it, but we're not going to participate because we don't want you to think that we're doing it just for us. So we're just gonna
No,
have it
the
like-
solution is for you to just give the candy away. That's
Yeah,
the
there you go.
solution.
I know where I can start.
Yeah. Could you take just a couple minutes and talk about the runaround down on South on 59 for
Yes.
the emergency vehicles?
Yes, that was a, right where.
Because not all of them probably know about that.
Right
so.
where 59 is closed, for them to make a normal detour around, it was going to add at least 12 or probably 15 minutes to any run from any first responder, whether that be the sheriff, ambulance, fire department, coming from the north to the southeast portion. And of course, if you're talking about ambulance runs, or first responders, for over 15 minutes, that's somebody's life you're dealing with there. So Jason Games had talked to two landowners who live on either side of that blockage, and they share a border, and they both have driveways right close to that border. So he talked to them about making a little path. Let me just show you real quick what we're talking about. That's the teacher in me. I have to use the board here. So the blockage is, if you can all see this, here's 59. Mansfield's down here, and the blockage is right here. Well, there's a house here that has a driveway that comes around and comes to their house. And there is a house here that has a driveway come in, and the house is set back here. He's got a shed that sits right here, and a big driveway that goes here. So Jason talked to them about making a roadway between here. Put a gate. Here's the border right here between their properties. Put a gate here, but then connect those two driveways so if the ambulance or any first responder has to go, they don't have to take that big detour around. They can just go in this driveway, go through the driveway, into his driveway, and back out to 59 there. It's not open to the public, not open to anybody else. It's going to have a locked gate on here with a combination lock on it. So they've already, all the first responders already have that combination that they can stop, open that gate, and go on down the road. So that was a cost of right at $4,000, $3,700, I think. And so we offered to pay $3,000 of that because we were going to have the ambulance, we were going to have the other fire departments who might assist, and the ambulance service going through there. So that is completed. It looks really nice. I drove and checked it the other day, but that's what that's for. It's just for
But we did okay there, and I don't know, Roy and I have kind of talked about how we're gonna pay for that, but we've got that. Did we decide that, or did you decide
We
that?
decided it. Now, whether or not it's been done, I can't answer.
Okay.
Has it
Yes,
been done?
Has it been paid then?
yes, it's, well,
Okay.
it's going through.
Okay. Well, and just right before that, I don't know how many you're aware, but there was a drowning at the Mansfield Bridge. Now, this was prior to the road being closed, but just think if we had not done that, and it would have been 15 more minutes before they could have gotten to the drowning incident at Mansfield. So I think it's money well spent. I don't know.
Highway Department couldn't do it because it's on private property, so they had contracts with an outside contractor to build it for them, and we just supported at $3,000 level, supported that effort to do that. And then when it's done, it's a walk away. It belongs to those people, but But if it saved a life, it saved a life.
Well, and they're donating, you know, just letting us do it, just letting
they
us
are.
doing it. They are,
Yep.
but it's, you know, if there's a fire or something down there, why, trying to get those fire trucks around the detour would be a chore.
It'd be tough to have a wreck down there by Mansfield, which you certainly could have during the Bridge Festival, and take 15 more minutes to get to there.
Well, hopefully it should be open by the time the Bridge Festival
But the
hits,
rate
I
these
think.
state projects are going, I'll be surprised, because they seem to take forever to put a culvert in anymore, and
And
we've
you
got,
can't get anywhere.
you can't get anywhere. I mean,
47.
this whole county is that way right now.
234 and then
And-
it's.
And we have a group on 1,000 who came to a commission meeting,
Yeah, I-
complain like they always do about people using their road. Well, it's not your road to begin with, and people have a right to use it.
I have a farm on that road, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And down on a one yesterday on, I can't remember what road it was, but they'd actually called the police, and the people who lived there were threatening to park their car across the road to block it so nobody can use their road anymore. There's too much dust, too much traffic. So the police were there talking to them, and you can't do that, it's a public road, anybody can drive on it, so. They just get crazy.
Okay. Okay. Katie?
Our appeal time has closed. We have 80 appeals, which is the highest I've ever had. But we being me and Tyler Technology, oh, I didn't turn that down, sorry guys. We have not kept the lake up where it needs to be because the sales just keep going. And I'll say, no, let's just raise it a little bit, not have too much sticker shock. Well, the prices still keep going up, so I still have this great big disparagement between it. So, at the last conference, we sit down at assessors conference and we took our GIS map and we pulled off the Band-Aid. So, and only like 50-some appeals are from the lake. So of all the parcels that are out there, I don't feel too bad about it. And the state expects me to have 10%, which would be 1,900 appeals. So we're doing great as far as that goes, and we're working through those. We're going to have informal hearings on August 24th through 27th. I have an IBTR hearing, well, 2 of them, July 30th for Mrs. Hatke. One is at 9:30, and that's for her exemption where she tried to get a not-for-profit exemption on her property, and we denied it, the PWA did. So we're having that IBTR hearing at 9:30, and then at, I believe, 12:45 is her real estate appeal hearing. Jeff Lady is doing the appraisal for us, and Marilyn Minn's our attorney, and she's filed all the motions and all the exhibits, and it's going to be a phone hearing because of the COVID situation. So we'll see how this goes. This is my first ever IBTR hearing. It's never gotten to a hearing point before, so this is my first IBTR hearing, so we'll see how it goes. And then Merle Heinlein, which is a neighbor of hers, I was supposed to have his on August 19th, but my attorney cannot represent me then because she's representing Hamilton County at the state tax court that week. So she has made a motion for continuance, so that one will probably be continued. And otherwise, everything's done. We rolled the personal property to the auditor on the 29th of June because July 1st is the deadline. We were a little later rolling because the deadline to file personal property got moved by Governor's Order 20, I believe it was 2045, somewhere in there, to June 15th. So we got all our data entry done and rolled to her on the 29th. So we've got all our deadlines hit.
Okay, very good.
John, I should have made one more point before I go about the Covered Bridge Festival. I want you to realize also, all we control is what's on the square. We could say there's no more Covered Bridge Festival this year, but everything in Mansfield is going to happen, everything in Bridges, but that's all on private property. There's no way to stop, for us, to stop that. If the state wanted to come in and try to shut them down, I suppose they could, but that's all private property. We have no control over that stuff at all, so. And so we would lose all the TMLs from those positions because we weren't having a festival, so we wouldn't pass out TMLs for that, so that would be a nightmare, I think, as well, so. Just want to be aware of that.
Okay. Kim?
Okay, well, we got through tax collection, and we collected May 11th, probably $1.5 million more than we did last year. Then we sent out courtesy letters for the tax sale after the tax date, and there was 300, a little over 300 in real estate, a couple hundred in personal property, which that doesn't go in tax sale, but we still try. And I certified for the tax sale July 1st, and now we're under 200 that'll be going into the tax sale. But those could drop off too till we get there.
When is the tax sale scheduled?
September 18th.
Yeah, I can't hardly see you back there, but,
September 18th, you just want me in front of the camera.
well, yeah. September what, did you say?
18th.
18th is the tax sale. Okay, very good. Okay. Sheriff?
Morning.
Morning.
Oh, sure, come to their meetings, yeah.
He knows who's important.
He knows who funds him.
He knows who funds him.
He was off swimming the other day instead of coming to ours.
Oh,
Look at that.
You blame him?
No, I'd have been there too.
Currently, we have 51 inmates. Parke County picked theirs up on the 6th of July. They opened their jail up. So far, we've billed $129,678.50 so far for the year for DOC and out-of-county holding. $17,175 for June. Our reported collection for our fees, gun permits, sex offender registration fees for last month was $5,250.26. Almost half of that was in personal protection permits, so that's quadrupled in June compared to the rest of the year so far.
That was in July, now they're free, right?
What is it, the 5 years, is that what they're for?
It's the 5-year one, I think. It's the 5-year one.
So,
Because I saw there's an article in the Indianapolis paper this morning about it and said that they had the state police, I guess you could go through the state police now or through a website or something, and they had 20-some thousand requests in from July 1st through the 7th.
5 years free.
And that's free apparently.
Annual permit.
yeah, the lifetime you still pay for, but 5 years is free, so.
Merlin and protesters.
Yeah, it might have something to do with all the protests, you reckon?
Yeah. Our computer server room out there at the jail, the AC unit has been messed up for several years. We finally got it replaced a couple weeks ago. I think total cost around $8,600, but EMA put in $2,000 of it. But some of our jail computer stuff is in the same room, so that was about all he could afford out of his budget right then. So that's done, and that's probably like one of the most crucial units that we have out there, since it's all the brains for the building. Both the new Tahoes we bought this year, they were put into service last week. And we had an officer get rear-ended about 2 weeks ago. A motorcycle had hit him. They just totaled the car the other day. I don't know what we'll get out of it, but it was a 2013 Taurus, so it was the oldest car we had, and he was one of the officers that got new Tahoes, so we're not really out anything. And it's also in time for the Smith commissary report, so there's one for everybody, and there's one for the auditor too. How about that? So. Currently, I think we're sitting at about 31,000 in it. I think we dropped it down to about 10,000 in May after the top end from purchase.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I have.
Did we, so we pretty well recovered. We did have an exposure at the jail with the employees. I guess none of the employees were, in fact, ended up being infected, is that correct?
Correct. From either wedding or work or part-time job, we ended up with 17 employees that ended up getting tested. So not all of them were close contact, but a lot of them were. But yeah, none of them tested positive, so.
Good.
Oh, that's good. Okay, anything else for the sheriff? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. It's Chris back there, if you wanna have Chris. You don't have to run off, Sheriff, but you're welcome to stay. You just, yeah, just get out of the seat, that's all I need. Sorry.
I'll hang out.
Sorry. Okay, Chris.
Hey, good morning. I wanted to give you an update on grants, what's going on with them. So the big grant that we're working on is the CARES funding, through the CARES Act. And right now we've received about a little over $78,000 in requests. Of that, our working group, which is the process we have to recommend it and make sure that these are viable requests, we've approved 77,000 of that. And of that, 28,000 has been through the legal review, and the people that in Indianapolis have reviewed it and said that these all should be valid expenses that we get reimbursed from. The important thing to get out of that is that most of those expenses have already been paid out of accounts. The big account would have been the health account that we took a lot of money to buy PPE, but also some of the sheriff's department and some of the other departments have paid for stuff that we're getting reimbursed with. There's about $36,000, which is new expenses, which hasn't been paid out of any account, and that is a new audio system for the court that the judge had requested so that they can do social distancing and support their tele-hearings. The other grant that we're working is the ICJI grant, which we're using as a backup because it lasts a lot longer than the other CARES Act. So we're not, we haven't put anything against that yet. It's a little over $37,000. And so if some of these expenses fail in the CARES Act, then we'll move it over to the ICJI grant, which should be a little bit easier to get the money from. And the last thing is we're asking FEMA to reimburse 75% of all the expenses. So when you look at, we get a request, we buy $1,000 worth of masks, we buy it, we pay for it, then we're going to request through FEMA to get 75% of that back, and then that rest of that 25% will go on the CARES Act. It's very complex and troublesome process.
Sounds like it.
Seems like we got a good man working on it.
It should start working once I go through my 14 hours of class to figure out how to request the funds from FEMA. There aren't any problems with that, and we will. I'll just keep everyone updated. There shouldn't be any big issues right now. There's 3 other grants that we have that aren't COVID related. The first is the grant we had to get AEDs. It's about $3,500. I was just talking with the people from the state, and they approved some things for it. So we should be getting reimbursement here in like the next 3 months. And a lot of the delay with that has to do with the new system the state has, which is a little bit cumbersome. We also have the state Homeland Security Program grant, which was about $86,000, which bought an automatic license plate reader, an ID card machine, and then licenses for the servers in dispatch. The first 2 items have been bought. The last licenses have not been bought, and that's because it's difficult to get the person who designed and built the dispatch system to buy it and install it. And then the last is the salary grant, which gives the county about $18,000 to pay for the salary for the director, the deputy, pay for some of the salary for the director and the deputy director. We're working through that. We're just collecting up paperwork, but there shouldn't be any problems with that.
So you just using the grant that you mentioned about for the court as an example, so so that's not one that we're gonna be asked to put up the money up front and then reimburse it, is it, or?
No, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. I mean, it would be you either get the grant or we don't, and then, is that correct, or is that how you see it working?
No,
or?
so,
Yeah, maybe a little more detail how that's gonna work logistically.
all right, so logistically, the way it's gonna work is we have this grant line, and my understanding was that we could go into the negative on that grant line, and then we request through the CARES Act and through FEMA the money, and then they put it back into that into that fund. And that way, there's no putting the money up front. The risk for the county is gonna be that if they go through, we have to buy it to get reimbursed. So the county's taking the risk of buying that $37,000 worth of equipment, that it will be reimbursed.
That's what concerns me, because you understand that if we were to not get that grant and be stuck on the hook for 37,000, probably the equipment would go back. Because the county cannot, you know, absorb a bunch of extra costs if we do not get the grant. There isn't any way that we can take on that back. I mean, I'm all good for trying to get the grant, but if we don't get that grant, we can't just go and write you a check for $37,000 and say, oh, well, there you are, you didn't get the grant. So we need to be very careful in all of that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That, you know, and I know you'll do your best, but I think that in your group meetings, they need to understand that if we don't get grants, then some of that stuff probably will have to go back. So we need to, you know, cross our fingers or do everything we can to get the grant. And I'm not saying don't pursue the grants, but we also need to realize that we're not in a position then to eat up what little cash reserves we have of paying for a bunch of stuff that we just can't afford. So that's the deal. So,
Yes.
you know, that's why I'm concerned about whether or not that, you know, we need to make sure we try not to have to, you know, that be sure we're going to get the grant before a bunch of money is spent. So,
If you run that grant in negative, you're basically putting cash up front.
Yes.
Pay for it, so, yeah. We just need to know it.
The process by which we're buying, there's a transfer on our agenda that I'm gonna ask to be tabled because it's revolving around stuff that will be applied for by grant, but that department has transferred money around or requested transfers to make all the appropriations solvent. There's not an appropriation at this point for some of these things, and this would be one example at this point. I don't know where the appropriation that the claim is going to be filled out from is coming from. Now the PPE that we did out of the health trust fund and these laptops that the probation department's talking about and some of these other things are all coming out of various appropriations in the county ledger, and theoretically when they get reimbursed they come into a grant fund and then we reappropriate all that money into the various places where it came from, and you all obviously have a great record of that, I'm sure. I have no doubt in my mind of that. But we have to be very careful at knowing where these are coming from, because a $37,000 sound system in an appropriation puts that appropriation itself deeply in red in anything the court's going to have to work with. So,
And we talked about this in our meeting, I didn't know where, to me, as we talked about it, because it's got to be purchased before you get reimbursed, does the judge have a budget?
the judge has a budget. Now, that's what I'm going to say is that my position here would be, or my thinking is that if you guys, if the people that are going to make this decision, make the decision to purchase the equipment, then the claim is going to be entered on an equipment line in one of his funds.
Yes.
And I think in the circuit court budget, there is a equipment line that he has. Forgive me, I don't memorize every one of these appropriations, so.
Rory, I have the budget status if you want it.
No, I don't have it. I've got it right here. He has an equipment maintenance line, which is what I think we use for some of that tele-court stuff we've done in the past.
How much is in there?
$6,000.
Okay.
So $37,000 is going to blow that appropriation out of the water, right? And we don't want to just let that go. We can run these things in the red, but somebody's got to be watching this.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say is there's going to be so many things in the red from this that we have to make sure we know where they're at, because that doesn't happen right now.
this is the only one, speaking with that group, this is the only one really that's been on the edge for us.
I agree. This is just an example.
But the reason is that we have some elevated level of confidence is that if this goes through the CARES Act, and the CARES Act feds come back and say, no, we're not paying that. And I signed a letter that said the county would pay that back if we had to. Then it would go to the criminal justice fund, which we are confident because it meets all the criminal justice requirements. And Chris lists all that in the narrative when he does it in. So even if they were to turn it down, I have confidence that.
Right, I'm not picking on, I'm not picking on.
Yeah, we're just using this as an example.
We had the same discussion that you're having. Trust me. we had
That
the same-
somebody's gotta be
I'm
responsible.
having a discussion based upon how this is all going to happen in the ledger. There's plenty of other things that are happening in that ledger at this point. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear.
Because if we were to get stuck, as I said, if we get stuck with that bill, that's going to, this county is going to be hit. Once the income taxes revenue start coming in with a 14% unemployment that we had when this virus hit, the income tax side of our revenues is really going to tank. And so everybody, we can't be making mistakes about spending extra money that we don't have.
And we explained this to everyone early on, that you have to make sure that these are things that you have a way to pay for, and then you're getting reimbursed for. You can't just purchase those with the hope that the money will be coming in at some point. So we gotta have those funds somewhere. So that's why I was hoping that the judge had a budget for that kind of thing.
He has a line item for it, and there's not enough money
That's
there
not
by
big
any
enough.
stretch of imagination.
Yeah.
Of course, there's not enough money there wasn't enough money for the PPE.
Sure.
Right, appropriated.
Sure.
We did several additional appropriations in the very early stage of this
Yeah.
that Chris submitted to me.
And like Chris said, those really aren't even questionable things. Those
No, that's
will be
not
reimbursed.
absolutely.
But this
Of course,
one's a
that's gonna
questionable
go
one.
there.
But this is a big one. This is a big one
They've
too.
been trying to get that system up there for years, and this is just this was a stroke of good luck on an excuse to get it. That's,
Yeah, right.
yeah, they've been trying to get that audio system for years, so they don't have to leave.
So the moral of the story is just be careful and try to make sure that and I'm sure you'll track it. I know you'll track it well, but just make sure that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we bought something and can't get it paid for.
Chris, I'm seeing on a lot of emails where the PPE is available to businesses still, encouraging businesses to apply through the CARES Act or the
Partnerships.
Partnership Parke County. you
Partnership
can-
Parke County.
Partnership Parke County, okay. Or is there anything available to the counties in first priority before the businesses as free equipment, other than the grants?
No, well, we've gotten shipments from the state, minimal amount of masks and
Just
stuff.
minimal.
The other day I tried to Putnam County to pick up 1,000 masks for the school system, so that really isn't the state's just making sure they can say they gave us stuff.
Yeah.
But really, it's really they're giving us, they're telling us they're gonna pay for it in the future and saying, go out and buy what you need and then we'll cover the cost later on. But there's no real program out there to get PPE from, to get direct PPE from the state.
And Chris did go over to Vermillion County, he got 55 gallons of hand sanitizer there, which was available to the counties. They've got 300 some gallons of it, I think, there, so he has done that, so we're in good hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
doing a great job.
Anything else you want to say or?
Well, there was Chris at the helm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job working through this, getting the whole team.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else out there that wants to talk or down the hall or?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right, I think that's no public. Okay. Move on. Approval of the minutes.
Nothing else you need from me, I'm gonna leave. Anything else, any questions come up in here?
Not that I know of. All right.
Hey, I do. One question.
All right,
I'm
go
motion
ahead.
to approve. I'll take this real quick with him offline. Motion to approve the minutes.
Oh, I can wait here.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Did you guys make that?
Okay, we're ready now for additional appropriations.
Yeah, we have three. Two of these are for miscalculation on my part on the debt payments for the courthouse project, particularly the attic roof, the second loan. Basically, didn't put enough in for the principal payments. There are several transfers that were done in the background to address this, but we need to appropriate a little additional to debt service for $1,400 and seed it for $700. And then we had a request from the probation for Scram. I think there's a letter in our packet about this, that they're monitoring about twice as many people as normal, or as in a normal case, 4 to 5 people up to 8 to 10. Officer McCarty and I had a conversation about making sure they're paying attention to the amount of money that's coming back into that, because it's basically going to nearly double the amount that gets spent to that fund in a year. So.
Any questions on those?
Move approval.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're down to transfers.
Transfers, yeah. There are, we'll go through this in kind of backwards. The assessor requested transfer dues to office supplies. The auditor's office charged the assessor's office supplies line for personal property forms this year, which has not generally been that way. Nobody really knows why. It was paid for by the auditor instead of the assessor. So it never had been appropriately for that. So Katie's moved money out of dues. Some of the dues aren't having to be paid since they aren't having conferences and so on. The two probation transfers, there actually is supposed to be 3. These were all for the purchase of, I believe these were service tablets for the probation officers, if I remember right. Jason and I talked about these as well. These will be submitted to the team for reimbursement from the virus money. So my recommendation at this point would be that these would be tabled. There's no reason to make the transfers. At this point, the appropriations exist. We're not creating lines or anything. They may run in the red, and we would have them submitted to make it go right if they don't get their reimbursement in the first go around. But I don't see any reason to do a ledger entry for these that should, based upon what I even got from a couple of the team members, should get reimbursed. So I would move to table those two and approve the assessor.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to approve the assessor's transfer and to table the 2 from probation. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We have the jury pay going back to February for your approval.
Correct.
Motion by the jury.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Redevelopment,
Wait a minute.
did we miss
You got-
that?
Yeah, you got February, March, April, May.
Well, that was for all of them.
All of them?
Yeah, we weren't doing them, they were all included.
Okay.
I just noted that it went back that far.
Gotcha, thank you.
Thank you though, but yeah, that was included. Redevelopment,
Moving forward with the countywide sewer district study still. We had another meeting about that in here. Be forming a steering committee for that. That will work with the engineers on that process. And then we're working on filing suit on a couple non-payer You think there was anything else, was there?
Nah, I don't think so. Nothing of any. Planning and zoning?
Didn't meet.
Courthouse security did not meet. In your packet is a letter from NDOT, I guess, describing the project that's just starting in Parke County that Meese referred to about the replacement of the pipe across 59. So, for your information. So, there you go. Roy?
I have a few things to bring up, or questions to ask. It's July 9th now. I believe the auditor stated that settlement has been completed. So I have a couple questions. Has the reassessment loan from Rainy Day been repaid?
Not yet, but that will be done since everything's balanced.
Has the sheriff's pension trust loan been repaid from Rainy Day?
Not yet, but it will be this week.
Okay. We got our answer on grants earlier from Chris. The debt transfers for the miscalculation for principal and interest and so on been done in the ledger. The inter-category transfers been lit at it in debt service.
Say that again?
Have the inter-fund or inter-category transfers and debt service and CDIT been done for the courthouse payments?
Yes, those payments that were made to, the loan payments to the bank, is that what you're referring to?
Well, there was after the meeting in June, you and Rhonda and I sat here, maybe it was even before or after, and talked about the fact that we were going to be short in a couple of these. We just did a couple additional appropriations to deal with that too. Later on that day, I wrote out some transfers as far as courthouse tower interest to principal in lit edit, and same thing in debt service. Have those transfers been done?
Yes, I believe they have.
I guess we should ask this of Jim, but did we ever decide where the $5,000 cost for the coronavirus attorney, for their clearing attorney, was going to come from? Has that claim ever come in, or have we?
Not yet.
What was that? I'm sorry, what was that for?
The attorney fee for them to run their claims past the attorneys for the grants. Commissioners agreed to.
I thought they were running, thought they had an attorney in Indianapolis they were running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cost $5,000.
Yeah.
I
Haven't seen a claim yet?
did not
I
see
don't
it.
believe the claims came through yet.
Okay. I don't know if it should. I don't even know if it should have yet.
Well, didn't they think ultimately they could get reimbursed even for that, didn't they? Wasn't that the
It'll have to
discussion?
be
So
paid out
I guess
sometime.
Well, we just need to decide where we're going to pay it from. Right?
Yeah. Gotta be paid out someplace in the meantime.
You want to pay it out of ours or theirs?
pay it out of there, it's their deal.
That's what I think too.
Oh, yeah.
You ready to write this down?
Yeah. Pay down the commissioner's line?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be 1,015, 03. Where's that deviation line at? There. 5041. The budget. The auditor answered my questions last evening, but there were some errors in the entry of revenues. As far as from the settlement that, according to her message to me last evening, that's been taken care of. The state decided they would shut down the gateway system about 4 days before the 30th. After I had entered everything possibly could be entered by that point. Updating the forms, so as of at least yesterday morning, that's still not open. At this point, I haven't done much of anything since then, since our last meeting because of that. We were waiting on the end of the month of June to get fund balances and settlement revenues and all that good stuff in there so that I could start getting it done. But I haven't been able to do that. We did receive some revenue projections, and these were generally revolving around the MVH, motor vehicle highway, and they're suggesting that you use 85% of last year.
I thought it was 82.
82, Mark.
It's 82, I believe. They're suggesting that it's only gonna be 82.
Okay,
So-
82%.
So we would receive 82% of the monies
That we would,
that
that we are
receiving now,
this year. Yes.
which is quite a blow to the highway fund. So it's only starting
18%.
now. 18% less in highway revenue funds. They're projecting.
Yeah, that's.
And that's not always, I mean, that's certainly not always right either. I mean, that's
No.
a stab
could
in
be
the
20.
dark. It could be more. It could be better. The excise revenues projections, the financial institutions tax and CVAT, they all basically held sideways because all they really do is take a look at what you did the last 3 years and say do that. Well, those are really probably going to stay relatively consistent.
excise
You still
part-
gotta buy license plates. You
Yeah,
still
the
gotta do
excise part
that
will
stuff.
stay, it's the fuel tax that we're gonna
The
get.
fuel tax is the one that's,
We'll get paid.
that one, so, anyway, we got that. I don't know if we need to make the motion, but I think we need to just make the decision that we move the adoption of the budget to October 8th, which is our scheduled October meeting. So,
I think the
if
later,
everybody's all right with that, I think we
later
just
we can push it, better off we'll be.
plan to do that.
Oh, I do too. I mean, cause what it's gonna, a lot of what I see the budget boiling down to is what the income tax numbers come in at. Those are the ones that we need to know
And that's
in
it.
order to craft this budget and make sure that it's solvent. And since
We
it's
won't
gonna,
have
they're
that till
gonna,
September.
we're not gonna have that
Right.
near as soon. So I certainly think that adoption needs to go till October. We can still have our hearings as scheduled. We'll know basically what the budget looks like, and then we'll put the final touches on it once we get those income tax numbers.
I want to bring up an idea with the hearings. First of all, we need a schedule for the budget hearings on the 20th.
The auditor, she and I talked about that a little bit. She's gonna send it to me, and I'm gonna adjust it accordingly. If anybody has any
That's on the
suggestions.
radar that we're getting that out. for
Yeah,
people.
well, she's gonna send it to me, and then,
I
I
would
may
like-
adjust it a little bit.
That's fine. I would like to leave the option open to not holding anything on the 21st, with the possibility of considering replacing that day with something in mid-late September, after the income revenues come
We'll see
through.
where we're at.
It's not gonna do, I mean, this day two is really, in the last few years, has been, all right, we pretty well know what the revenues are gonna be, so we've kinda almost finalized the thing at that point, then it sits until we adopt in September. We may not have that luxury this time, and that day after clearing back in August isn't really gonna do anything for us.
Well, no, we're not gonna accomplish anything, because we aren't gonna be able to make any,
We won't know.
Yeah.
So we may have to look at considering a special meeting in September, somewhere about that time. So mid-late September.
So what you're saying is hold the hearing on Thursday.
All the hearings on
Scrap
Thursday is
Friday.
scheduled. We always go through everybody there. We generally go through a lot of the bigger, the bigger issues on that
Postpone
day.
Friday till September, we get some numbers.
Move Friday off as
It's a wise thing to do.
another thing.
Are we looking at what the state, what the governor has done to the state? Are we looking at a 15% reduction in all of our people? I was gonna say, if so, we probably ought to at least let them be aware of it and start thinking.
We're looking at a 15% reduction in what?
Well, the state of Indiana, the
I
governor
know.
has said everybody's gotta cut 15%, he doesn't care where,
Right.
just cut it. Are we looking at the same kind of approach?
Well, yeah, I would say we are.
So that's what it seems to me, so we might as well, should we just not address that?
And at this point, I haven't come to that conclusion, but
Well, and I
I
understand.
also haven't.
I understand, I've been doing many budgets, we don't know till the end, and I realize it's somewhat of a gamble, but I'm just curious. if
You
we're-
can figure that the property taxes will be stable. I mean, that's always the
Right.
thing. So
Actually, the growth quotient, what I said is 4.2.
4.2, so that helps us a little bit, the
Right.
growth quotient is
I was kinda
4.2.
surprised.
It all boils down to what these income taxes do.
Right.
Basically, a third of our revenue is income taxes. So, you know, I guess where I come down, Evan, until we know those things, and, you know, I'm like basically looking at a flatline budget right now.
Well, I hope you're
You
right.
know,
Absolutely.
basically, if we
I hope
can
you're right.
flatline and maybe a few additions. Of course, we also have the health insurance that always hangs over us.
Right.
We've been lucky the last few years
Right.
that we've budgeted a 5%, and it's been basically
Roughly sideways.
roughly sideways.
Right.
So
Right.
we hope that that continues.
Sure.
There's so many unknowns. We don't want to scare people, and I don't want to overreact to the situation, but at the same time, but it's going to really take a lot, I think, at budget hearings to convince at least me that for any increase in any line item, unless that it is dire,
Well, I agree.
you know, until we know those, and then maybe the income revenue will come in better than we expect, and we can say, well, you know, we can do that. It's just,
Mike,
there's just too many unknowns.
I
I just
yeah.
don't know.
I hope.
Well, I do too, but
We don't get.
plan for the worst and hope for the best.
I couldn't help but think of what the governor did.
Well, of course, they're under even a worse circumstance because they rely so much on sales
well,
tax
they
and
rely
income.
100% on sales and income tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not in quite the, I guess, the same because of the property taxes. I mean, they will be stable, growth quotient of 4.2%. I mean, we have savings and we can dip into that some, but
Right.
certainly it's going to be a challenge until we have all of the pieces to the puzzle, as you
And
well
I think
know.
it should be noted here, I think it's probably a good time to do it. I'm the one that, I've seen all the requests, right? They've all been entered into my spreadsheet. And I think it's a very fair and accurate statement to say that every one of these people that submitted a request, there are very, very few requests for increase in this budget. Very few.
Good.
And they, in the letters, you guys got the letters, some of them made mention of that conversation that happened in the background between me, and many of them realized this is not normal. This is not
Right.
this is a different situation, and in every one of them, I think tried to at least, unless there was a really good reason or really good request for it, pretty well held it to nothing. So.
That's good.
I think they should be, there's a lot of credit. I think I think that is a testament to our department heads, that they're paying attention, they know what's going on, and they're doing their part, at least on the request side, so.
That's great.
It should be noted.
I just want to make sure we're being very fair to all of our staff and everything, and they're aware of where things are.
Need a motion for the October?
That's really put into, I mean,
I think
we will
can
agree that
we
we're
agree
on
that's what
October
we're
at this
gonna
point.
do.
And at this point, I'd like to leave the option of that Friday, August 21st.
Well, we can just-
be
yeah.
postponed or canceled till sometime in September. I saw in the commissioner's report from Amos in the paper that the CARS request, I would like to have that. The CARS budget request.
Pardon?
CARS,
Okay.
C-A-R-S, budget request.
Yes, I will get that to you.
While we're talking about budget, Laura and I we kind of discussed it ourselves a little bit, but with her permission and my plan is that we will hold the hearings in her office as usual. It's never worked out well to try to have them at any other location because there's always something that we want or need, and it's right there when it's in
Right.
her office, and she
Right.
has said that she's fine with that.
Right.
So that's my plan, unless some of you tell me different, that you're not comfortable with that or whatever, but we'll need to know if anyone's uncomfortable with, because we'll have to sit closer together than what we have been. So if there's concern, you don't have to tell me now, but if there will be, well, we'll have to make some kind of other arrangements. I mean, we'll try to space out as much as we can, but you know, the room is small and, that sort of thing. So unless I hear different, why, we will plan to proceed having the hearings in her office on, what's the 20th of
20th fall.
August as usual. So.
The DLGF's budget workshops, July 22nd, by computer. If you want me to participate in that, you might want to send me that, because she didn't send it. So.
Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's enough.
You know, Larry, back to my point with Chris is that's why I want them to be so careful with
Yes.
going out and us be on the hook for some, especially these big ticket items. That's what, I mean, a couple $1,000s isn't gonna make or break, but you know, we get these big ticket items and suddenly somebody down the line or up the chain decides, oh, there's no more grant money or that doesn't apply, and then we have a
Disaster.
Been there, done that.
yeah, and it's not a good thing.
It looks, a lot of them look very attractive over the years, but it's.
Yeah,
No thanks.
Chris and I have talked as well about some of these things, paying attention to what the cost is after the fact. So maintenance agreements and
It's like when they gave
so
us this building.
yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful of those things.
You have to be
around.
you have to be careful, and you know, I don't want to get into the politics part of this, but you know, we're going to have an election in November, a presidential election in November, and nobody knows what's going to happen, but there's certainly liable to be a change in attitudes or how things are handled after November. Who knows? So I just don't want us to get caught up in the middle of that.
I agree.
So that's. And I wasn't picking on the judge's sound system, it's just.
No,
it's
I'm
just-
not either.
It's just, you know, that's the big, it was a big ticket item, and I know that, like JB said, he's been trying to get it, and
They've been trying for years to get that.
Yeah.
And this is,
if they can, great. I mean,
Yeah.
if they can get it, great.
It's worth a try.
But yes, yeah, you don't want to discourage them for trying, but at the same time, there's,
but understand if that grant doesn't go through, it goes back.
it's gonna have to go back.
That's exactly right.
Okay, anything else?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Excuse me. Well, I'm gonna stop by.